Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Star Trek Discovery, Season 5. So, this season, uh, well, for one, they kind of sidelined Saru, and my understanding is that from the trivia, the actor was busy filming Hocus Pocus 2 for a lot of this, so in order to decrease the amount of time that he would have to spend on this show, and give him more time for either filming or doing the publicity tour for Hocus Pocus 2, they decreased his character's role and sidelined him as an ambassador or whatever. Which it sort of makes sense because they've just been going back and forth with who's captain, who's commander for this between Michael Burnham and Saru. So I guess that they're gonna have to sideline him somehow at some point, but it was just awkward because they did this whole thing of oh no, now you can be captain. That's fine, I'll be over here. And in the last season, and then now they're booting him over to just be straight up ambassador, and it's just I don't know. And then they bring in this new guy who I thought was human-ish, and then they never explain what species he's supposed to be. He's got pointy ears. That's about the only weird thing. But he's not a Vulcan because he doesn't have the eyebrow things. So I don't know. He's a guy who's not human because I guess you can't have somebody like that unless they're not human. So there was that, and that's okay, that's acceptable. But what really cheesed me off is that Detmer and Ushakun, who we finally actually get to see and do and have some type of storyline with them, yeah, they've been manning the consoles on the bridge for the last 4 seasons, but now that we actually get some screen time with them, suddenly they disappear for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes. And the only explanation, and I had to go into the trivia to find what the explanation was, it's a blink and you miss it moment that they are the ones piloting the Enterprise that they retrieve to wherever the fuck it's going. And so that's their explanation for why they're not there. But even in the final episode, spoiler alert-ish for those 2 characters, is that even in the final episode, you can tell with how that last scene is shot and the zoom angles and everything that they're using, that was probably reused footage from some other party or incident or something where I don't think the actors were actually available or used in that. And that's just such a piss poor thing to do, that you have these characters that you don't do much with, even though they're super supportive of Burnham. They are the rah-rah crew and the competent crew. They're there to help you when needed, but actually having backstory is until the 5th season, and then immediately after they get some, you sideline them it had to have been some type of contract thing with the actors or something. I don't know. I looked and it was just scheduling conflicts, or they didn't need them, or something bullshit Hollywood speak. I don't know why else you would just bring in 2 random new crewmen for those consoles for the last half of the season, unless there was something else that went down. I don't know what went down, but I don't the in-universe explanation was not good enough to explain why they did such a good job of keeping that bridge crew for the first 4 seasons, and then not for the last half of the 5th season. Anywho, aside from that, it has the same quality of CGI and scale that that Discovery has been known for, and that this era of Star Trek is known for. So they maintain that consistent quality. Michael Burnham does her whisper talking thing excellently. I love every minute that she's on screen, just like usual, and I like that they talk to get and just puzzle out through their problems. I like that. What I didn't care for was that they brought in so one of the main antagonists of this season is a white-haired chick who I feel like I recognize her from some other show, but maybe it's just because she's so generic in her execution or in her storyline of oh, I love this guy, and oh, you guys are bad, but clearly we're going to have a personal connection at some point. So you could just feel from the moment that she was introduced that she's going to be the bad character that you eventually cooperate with something, and that has a sympathetic motivation for her thing. And that just, over 1 episode, cool. But over the entire season, it's just oh my god. It's not terrible, but it's so drawn out when you know what's coming. So it wasn't an enjoyable process to get there, even though you know it's coming. There have been other movies and shows where you know what's coming, but the journey to get there is more enjoyable. But this one, it was a bit too obvious and overdone and overplayed and just not as great. And in general, the stakes of this season were so diminished from last season. So last season would have been a better series ending season than this one. Like if they had slotted that like season 5 and then season 4 would have been better in my opinion, because season 4, there, spoiler for that, there's a like 5 parsec or 5 AUs, like a solar system wide black hole ish thing that's gobbling up tiny little particles at a solar galactic scale that's just going to be bouncing around the Milky Way, especially the Alpha Quadrant, and like gonna take out the Earth, head of Starfleet and all that jazz, like that, and they are having to figure out how to stop people that can make fucking Dyson sphere type things, which, by the way, everybody's like, oh my god, the power to make this is so amazing. Like, okay, but you remember how when the Enterprise D found Scotty on a Dyson sphere, like, did we just never remember that or bring that up again or figure that out? There was just people that went to study it and then nothing, whatever. Anyway, point is that was a galactic scale, like, cataclysmic event that they had to figure out how to stop. And then in this one, they're like, hey, you remember that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where the chick who played the Founders, later on, she also, in this episode, she plays an alien that looks kind of like a Founder, who explains why so many of the Star Trek species look similar to each other with just extra makeup. I'm sorry, slight evolutionary differences, extra makeup, is because they seeded the solar system with, because that species 10,000 or 10 billion or whatever years ago seeded the solar system to, create life in the long scale, blah, blah, blah. Like, that single episode of The Next Generation was an interesting little, chase, go here to get this, go here to get that, blah, 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 go in. But then they spend an entire season essentially doing the same thing to find out where there's more of that technology, or where there's more of those people, or where they originated from, or where they were last at. Something along there that I don't even care about. So you have 10 episodes, or however many freaking episodes there were, just on this thing that was a single episode of The Next Generation that really got the crux of it, which was that, hey, we seeded the solar system. Whereas this is ooh, there's technology, so now we have to go get it, but we have to go... I think that part of what annoyed me is that it very much reminded me of the first season or 2 of Mandalorian, which I know everybody else loves, but I did not like. And it's a scavenger hunt, but not really a scavenger hunt. It's more of a, fetch quest. That's what it was. It was a fetch quest. For this whole season, it was just go fetch this artifact, and then fetch this artifact, and then fetch this artifact. And I was bored. I was bored throughout all of it, and the scale was just so small. Okay, so yeah, they probably have some advanced technology. You assume that they have the most advanced technology on the planet, or in the solar system, or the galaxy, so you can't let other people get access to it, but sure, whatever. Yeah, it was dumb. I did not care for it. It had a good series finale. They did a good job of jumping ahead and showing you how things had panned out between some of the characters, and getting to see at least some of that, and that was nice. But I imagine that'll make it difficult for the Starfleet Academy show that's I believe in the works to have Tilly to have Tilly there. I don't know if she's gonna be in it, or if it's just gonna be a totally separate thing, or if it's gonna be set earlier in the 90s era Star Trek, or if it is gonna be set in 3,000 years in the future. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what they have to work around now that has been established for that jump ahead that they did. But yeah, overall, I would say that it was an okay season. It was a little bit drawn out for something that TNG handled in one episode. So I think that it had the symptom of okay, we have to pad the runtime to make something a season, a several episode length thing that could have been done in less time if we had the time constraints rather than having to do all this over the course of a season. But like I said, the acting is good, the CGI is good, the music, the visuals, and all that jazz. They're all great, as you would come to expect from the Discovery era show. It still focuses a little bit too much on that character that I don't care about, but whatever. So yeah, it's okay is what I'm gonna go for it. But I guess from the trivia, it said that when they were filming this, they didn't know that it was going to be the last season until relatively far into it. So maybe that's why they had such a lackluster season. But that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter if you know it's going to be the last season or not. You should be trying to make the best show that you possibly can, not like, well, we'll make a middling season this time around, but we'll have like a really exciting sixth season or something. Like, no, you should have had an exciting fifth season, and I don't really feel like you did. I feel like the last episode I think was over an hour, and so it's just like they added an extra. I don't know. They scrunched something here or moved something here, and then made an extra 30 or 40 minutes to wrap up the show, which is fine. But yeah, just this season wasn't as exciting or didn't have as high of stakes, which Discovery has been known for their seasons of really high stakes, and this just didn't have them. So yeah, overall a bit of a disappointing season, but I still enjoyed it as much as Discovery can, but just not. It's not peak Discovery. So little disappointed, but they didn't have Riker playing this as a holo novel before going to make some decision, and they didn't kill a major character just to kill the major character and have like a thing at the very end. Like, they didn't do that for that reason. Okay? So, not as bad as Enterprise ending, obviously not as good as the TNG or Deep Space Nine ending, and like Voyager. Of course, it's hard to beat Voyager for that like level of like accomplishment, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Bye.